Africa.
Well, we continue with the broadcast this morning right here on Salam Media, and we are now focused on the United Kingdom. And for all of us who have been following developments in the United Kingdom at this point in time, with regards to the chaos, the mayhem that has been caused by these right-wing racist fascists, and it is clear that people are concerned and highly concerned. We've heard and we've even discussed this on Salam Media, looking at the concerns from certain communities, particularly the Muslim communities, where we've seen masajids that have come under threat, and people are concerned. And at a time of crisis like this, unity is extremely important, unity of purpose against all this mayhem that is being caused. And this is the reason why we are going across to the UK, talking about the Peace and Unity Initiative. And we are joined by Dipu Sulaiman with the Peace and Unity Initiative out of Newcastle in the United Kingdom. Dipu Ahad, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I see you on the road already, but Jazakallah khairan for your time.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Great to see a brother from South Africa and speaking to everyone in South Africa. Alhamdulillah. Good to see you guys.
Yes, Alhamdulillah. In fact, considering we have been following developments very, very closely in what is taking place in your part of the world, in the UK, across many cities as well. And it's not a pretty sight. It's not a good sight at all. But also at the same time, looking at this target, the Islamophobic element that has taken advantage of this targeting of people, Muslims in particular, masajids coming under threat, and also looking at migrants and those in the UK that are there as immigrants in the country. And stability obviously needs to come, but also at the same time, we need to reach out to others, to other communities as well, so that normality can be achieved, peace, calm, and all of this can only be done through unity and working together.
Yeah, I agree. So basically, everybody's probably seen what's going on in the UK, but I think there's a more issue. I think that's the issue we have to really deal with is the inherent racism. Now, one thing you did mention is Islamophobia, and I think it's very correct that you mentioned Islamophobia because it is Islamophobic. It is anti-migrant, and we've seen that this trend in the UK for a number of years now, particularly after October 7th. So I think labeling it Islamophobia is correct. Yes, most of these people or majority of the people will be racist or they'll target anyone. But at this moment in time, the targets are the Muslims predominantly. And that's why some of the masjids have been targeted. So that's very, very important to make it clear. Now, racism or fascism has been around in the UK for God knows how long, but in the last 20 years since 7/7, September 11th and 7/7, obviously issues have exacerbated in the UK. So every time there's an issue, we are there to stand up for the community. But this time things have been a little bit different with regards to the on the streets racism, meaning smashing of police stations, the masjids, and total carnage on the street. This is something we really haven't seen in the UK, especially targeting minority groups for many years, and especially on this scale. I don't think we've seen this before. So it's something very different, but it doesn't mean that it hasn't. I mean, the feeling of Islamophobia hasn't happened, or the rise of Islamophobia hasn't happened. It has, and has for many years now, but it keeps on cropping up and then disappearing and cropping up again. And I think our governments need to really start thinking. I think politicians as well, I think they've got a hand, and in many ways they are complicit in some of the rhetoric we see with the far right. So if you see some of the rhetoric the politicians have made against migrants, against Muslim communities, this has not helped the situation. In fact, this has actually allowed the likes of the far right to give them legitimacy.
Well, certainly, and I think well, you make a very, very good point because this has been a festering sore for a very, very long time. It's been like a dormant volcano that is basically lying quietly under the surface and just waiting to erupt. And as you mentioned, there has been Islamophobia, whether it came to the symbols of Islam, whether it came to the hijab, whether it came to all those things, the character assassination of our Prophet. ﷺ. We've seen Quran
Absolutely.
burnings in other parts around the world as well. So this has been there for a very, very long time. But looking at it from the politician's perspective, and it is no hidden secret where we've seen even the Tories, the conservative government, all along while they were in power, but also inflammatory statements that were made by the current Labour Party and their leader in the build-up to the elections. Now we see trying to do some sort of a damage control as well. And I'm sure that, all of this put together tells us that Britain has got a huge problem. It's got a massive racist problem in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and again, as you mentioned, so it's not just the Tories; it's all the main two parties, the Labour Party and the Tories, who've been complicit in some of the rise of this hatred we see. So, as I said, the politicians. So when we talk about people like Nigel Farage and the Reform Party, the right wing party, yes, again we agree. Some of the agendas are as anti-Muslim, anti-migrant, racist agendas. But let's not forget that the covert racism which exists within other parties, such as the Labour Party and definitely the Tories as well. And these are meant to be, especially the Labour Party, meant to be people who are meant to be a bit on the left, on our side of the migrants. But as you can see over the years, the Labour Party has moved from a centre left to a centre political party, and that does not help people like us who really want a voice, migrants who want a voice, or people of minority who want a voice. So yes, unfortunately, politically on a political platform, we do not have a real voice in the UK. So the UK is a very strange place at the moment. I mean, the Brexit thing, the referendum, it did not help the situation. Like Brexit or not, agree with it or not, but there's been issues there, and that kind of brought out a lot of inherent racism within society. But again, what we need to deal with and speak about is the agenda against Muslims, and that's not going anywhere. You see, the rhetoric, as I mentioned, by not just politicians but by the people, and it's mainly targeting Muslims. And I think, over the years, we have campaigned, we have fought, we have stood up for our community. We have had peace and unity events, as we're having tonight, a United We Stand event, bringing all communities together. But this will continue. For example, on Wednesday there's mass counter protests by anti-racist groups, Muslims, non-Muslims, everyone come together, and it was absolutely amazing throughout the UK. Is what we've seen, where all communities come together, standing shoulder to shoulder. But that's fine, that's great. We show solidarity. That happens. Great. Facebook, social media, it's everywhere. But then when that dies down, the inherent racism still exists. So how do we root out that problem? Because that problem will keep on reoccurring if we don't address it. But I don't think politicians want to address it. I honestly don't. I was a politician for 13 years, and I think they always want a boogeyman in society, and the boogeyman today are the Muslims. So I think it's important for the Muslims to rise, Muslims to stand up. And what we're seeing throughout the UK, I think now, is the Muslims are waking up. In the past, we've seen in protests and what have you, the Muslims have kind of been quiet, especially in cities like Newcastle. But what we're seeing recently is more and more Muslims coming out and understanding that it's a huge issue of Islamophobia and our communities are being targeted.
Yes. Dipu, to what extent has the solidarity from other communities outside the Muslim community featured prominently in this unity and peace initiative? What levels of support have you had? Because we know We know right now it's a fascist right-wing element that is causing mayhem and causing all the destruction that you see around you as well. But Britain has got somewhat of a history, and we've seen even in the past where we've seen even the Hindutva community, the pro-BJP element from India. Obviously, we've seen what had taken place, I think, in Leicester, if my memory serves me right as well, where we've seen a lot of this taking place over the years. So there is also that support or that backing of right-wing elements from other nationalities and other race groups in the UK.
Look, I'm not gonna act paranoid by saying there's an agenda against Muslims. Not at all. There is an agenda against Muslims, and that's not just in the UK, that's throughout the world, where people, we are the target at the moment, if it's, overt as well as covert targeting. So you talk about Hindutwas or far right groups or Nazi groups, Muslims are the targets at the moment, and we need to wake up. But however, talk about Newcastle itself. So the UK, at the moment, as I mentioned, with the pro the anti-racism demonstrations on Wednesday, the solidarity demonstrations have been absolutely amazing throughout the UK. You got people from all walks of life coming together, standing in solidarity. In Newcastle as well, you got people from the Hindu community, the Sikh community, and other communities coming together. One thing we're lucky in Newcastle is over the years we have built this peace and unity with different communities. So our close friends are like mine, are people from the Hindu community, not Hindutva, people from the Sikh community, other communities as well. We have got absolutely close links, and we're working really close together, and we're quite blessed in Newcastle that we have got those communities who can come together and stand in solidarity. And these are genuine people, by the way. These are not people who are just going, oh, let's stand together just for the sake of it. No, these are people who genuinely believe in unity and genuinely believe in the city. However, saying that in the UK, holistically, I don't think that's the issue. Newcastle, because we've done this work, it's been great because we've got those friendships. It's great, but throughout the UK, we have seen issues where, let's for example, a few years ago in Leicester, the Hindutva group targeting Muslims. I mean, that was quite prevalent and quite an important factor. Muslims being targeted. So yeah, so there are issues there, and we are being targeted. But I think still, I mean, because this is the riots and effing are all in the media, everyone's talking about it, and brilliant. But then when that dies down, we stop talking about some of these issues, and the issues really become um it, more on social media. Everyone likes posting those pictures, but how do we deal with those underlying issues? Because now, okay, the council, the police, we're all sitting around the table, we're all discussing this issue, but once this issue goes away, so it's not discussed anymore, but the issue still remains, and it's that I've been shouting for, and for many years, that we need to continue addressing the elephant in the room.
Yes, in fact, I've got a very interesting message come through saying that Assalamu alaikum, I am from Durban, but yeah, in the UK visiting my daughter. I am sure, and I'm just referring to South Africa here, is I'm sure we all experienced a riot and looting in South Africa a few years back. But trust me, UK is worse of what you have to see. Our people have at least have respect for our religious sites, but not here. We have freedom of religion, but not here. They burnt a masjid in Southport, looted all homes and shops, mostly Muslims. I was even caught up in this turmoil on Saturday in Bristol City. Allah saved my daughter. And today, throughout the UK, there is massive protest in almost every city talking about Islamophobia and immigrants. Now, this is just an indication that we know we have these problems also in South Africa. But this year, it is clear from this message that's come through from the sister saying that, there is a particular target, and that target is Muslims.
Yeah, of course, we can't deny that. I think I've seen some of the not retro. So, example, some of the anti-racist movements I've seen throughout the UK, the leading organizations, and I'm going to be quite frank here, and even in Newcastle. So, example, stand up racism, great, okay, we're standing up for racism, and it's great. I mean, some of the work that they do is amazing, but the language is not Islamophobia, and that concerns me because you have to address what is actually happening, and it's not racism; it's based on a religion, not race. So these targeting mainly, predominantly, are Muslims, and so we need to address that, and that's not racism, because I know, and this is honest truth. You might think so these people, these protesters, these thugs, might be white, obviously majority white, but there are people from non-white backgrounds. I'm not saying in the protests who've got that ideology now about Muslims being the problem. So we have to really think about that. So that's not racism. That is actually Islamophobia, and it's targeting a certain religion. So I think we really need to address this. Anti-racist movements really need to start addressing that. And I think what I'm going to do is very soon is start. We have been thinking this for a while. Is really need to start a movement in the UK where it is we do specifically talk about Islamophobia, meaning there are organizations in the UK, I'm saying street movements where we do stand up for the Muslim community. I think that is very, very important. And as I said, we need to really address what is really happening. And it is Islamophobia at the moment. And we are being targeted because of our religion, not because of our color. And we need to make that clear. I'm not saying these racists wouldn't have targeted other communities in the future, if you want to call them racist, yeah. But what I'm saying is the narrative at the moment is anti-Muslim. So let's call it what it is.
Well, Jazakallah khairan for that. Obviously, we will follow developments, and our du'as are with you as well. And with the communities in the United Kingdom, Allah grant you safety, Allah grant you protection as well, inshallah. And we thank you. We say Jazakallah for taking time out with us this morning right here on Salam Media.
Salam.
Walaikum salam. Dipu Sulaiman from Newcastle with us this morning from the Newcastle Peace and Unity Initiative. And with that, we're going to introduce you to Africa Muslims Agency. This hour of news and views is sponsored by Africa Muslims Agency. Africa Muslims Agency, a beacon of hope to communities for over 35 years in Africa and beyond. It is fired up this morning, and that is with Hafiz Imran Chunara. His topic this morning is gratitude, and immediately after Hafiz Imran Chunara, it's the International Post-War Gaza Rebuilding Planning session that was held in Malaysia a few months ago. Sheikh Azmi, president of MAPIM, who is going to weigh in. So all of that still to come on Salam Media, but leaving you with Hafiz Imran Chunara, I'm signing off. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.